Hi everyone, Chris here. Welcome back to the channel. This is going to be a video about me attempting to fare the keel on my Beneteau First 211 called Stitch. Now, those of you who've been following the channel will know that when I bought the boat in 2023, it was in a yard resting on its keel, as you can see in these pictures here, and I didn't have much access to the keel, so I did a real bodge job of putting the fairing the keel as much as I could. It was really difficult to get myself close to the keel because of all the other bits and pieces that were lying around in the yard. So this year I thought I would have a go at trying to do this properly and get the boat out, put it on a proper cradle and have a real good go at seeing if I could get a reasonably well fared keel. I was going to try and do this within some constraints because obviously you can do a really professional job, whip the keel off, send it off to somebody to sandblast it and have it fared professionally, but this is going to be a do-it-yourself jobby, and I'm going to talk you through what I did. What I did was get myself to a yard, and it was quite an interesting experience going in a lift. Okay, this is us getting lifted out. As you can see, there's a reasonable amount of weed on it. I'll have a look closer in a second. And the interesting question was, what sort of condition was it in, given my bodge job the previous time? So you can see it's really ripply looking there. So the guys did the usual business of washing it off. And here's the result post the wash off. So as you can see, quite a lot of the anti-foul had come off. And the white patches are bits of filler from the previous job. As you can see here, we've got some bobbly bits here.
Bobbly bits.
So off we went to the business of trying to scrape the old anti-foul off and try and get back to the metal. Now this proved more difficult than I had imagined because despite the amount of grinding away with angle grinders and chisels and all sorts, etc., getting back to an actual bit of shiny metal was pretty difficult. The endless layers of anti-foul that had been there previously, along with filler, were quite difficult to get off, and it was a question about how deep I really wanted to go. Some of the filler seemed to be pretty resistant and looked fairly fair, so I was thinking, well, do I really want to get it right back to the metal if there's already a reasonably fair amount of filler in there? So ended up taking it back as far as we could. If I'd wanted to go right back to the metal, I really would have had to have had it shot blasted or used one of those nail guns that does the business. And as you can see from this particular shot here, quite a lot of corrosion on the keel, and some bits where there have been rather deep fills being made. Some of them are mine, some of them are presumably a previous owner's fillings. So this sort of white filler stuff here, some of it actually stuck on really well, very hard to get off, so good from that point of view. So I didn't get it back to the bare metal, so this is me being a bodger again. Didn't get it quite back to the bare metal, but it seemed to be reasonably good. So next stage was to get some rust converter on it, so I used some of this Furtan stuff, which you just spray on and leave it for 48 hours. And it makes a kind of black residue which goes quite solid, and so it's quite a good base for doing further filling. As you can see here though, it's all some bits are still the white filler from the previous attempt, but looking at it, not too bad. There's obviously some fairing that's going to need to be done, but it's not quite as bad as I had expected it to be. Okay, so after leaving the Furtan for 48 hours, which is what it says on the tin, I got some fast-acting, fast hardener epoxy from Gurit, and this is a system which comes with pumps. Well, you can buy pumps to put on the bottles, which is quite neat, and it measures it out accurately. And I duly epoxied the Furtanned keel. It looks quite nice with the shiny on it, but even after 48 hours worth of curing, it wasn't 100% set. Even where you got these sort of relatively thick areas, it wasn't 100%. set even after 48 hours, and this is because most of the work had to be done in sub 10 degree temperatures. Quite why marine products aren't designed to work in the British winter is a bit of a mystery to me, but an awful lot of the stuff which you're going to use in the video requires temperatures in the mid-teens for optimal working. So anyway, got that epoxied, which was quite good fun, and then the next stage was to do the fairing, and I used something called Pro-Fair from Hempel, which is, if you read the side of the tins, is something which is likely to kill you. It's quite interesting set of things written on the side of the tin here, which seem to suggest that instant death will follow anybody who uses this stuff. So quite why we have to anti-foul as well is a bit of a mystery. Actually, it's not that dangerous. Obviously, you don't eat it, but it's not quite as lethal as it sounds on the tin. So anyway, mixed up this stuff, and this is quite a neat system because the hardener and the filler itself are different colours. So one's kind of this blue colour and one's white. And the good news there is that it's pretty obvious when it's mixed up nicely because you get a colour about halfway between the two. So as you can see, we slap it on, and again it needs to be left for a period of time to cure. And again, it ideally works in temperatures in the mid teens and higher, but we had to work in closer to 0 temperatures because this is March, this is Britain, and this is when people do marine work. So slap on the fairing, and then there's obviously a lot of sanding to be done. So yes, we had to prime it, straightforward system, and I used some of the time while that was settling to get a first coat of anti-foul on the rest of the hull, and I then anti-fouled keel and the rest of the hull several more coats. Pretty straightforward stuff. Now I didn't drop the keel down completely, but I did get a chance to look at the mechanism, and the bolt was in a nice condition, as was the rod that winds up the top of the thing. You can see up the hole here, it's reasonably nice up there. Also got the chance to check that the paddle wheel was working nicely, which it was. So here we have the guys at Victoria Quay doing the business of getting the boat back on. This was very efficient, very nice guys, good sense of humour, and very clear about what they wanted you to do, which is always a plus point in these kind of situations. So boat gets stuck back in the water, engine starts, and we are back into our berth. That was a little video about me doing the fairing on the keel. I think it was a job worth doing, as you can see when you compare what it looked like when it came out of the water with what it looked like when I'd finished anti-fouling. I think it did a reasonable job. It wasn't the neatest possible job. There were still little pits. If you looked at it closely, it was always looking a little bit scruffy, but overall it was an infinitely improved keel, much better. So I was happy with that. We went racing at the following weekend and had our best results ever in our club racing. So it probably wasn't the only thing that helped us, but that was a good sign. So a job well worth doing. As I said earlier in the video, it might well be worth getting the keel taken off and having it sandblasted if you really wanted to do a very good job of it. But for the money and trying to keep the costs down, this was not a bad way of doing it. So all in all, a reasonably good job. I must say though that the need to give yourself a decent amount of time to allow things to settle and dry does mean it's not the kind of job you can rush over one weekend. You've got to take a bit of time doing it, which is easy for those of us who are retired, less easy for those who are not retired. However, job well worth doing.